My husband invented a time machine, then stepped into it without a second thought, determined to go back in time and bring his first love back to life. Perhaps it was his journey through time that altered the trajectory of my present life. On the first day, I noticed that the man's name on the marriage certificate hanging at home had changed to that of my sworn enemy. On the second day, I found my sworn enemy lying in my bed. On the third day, a tiny boy who looked exactly like my sworn enemy pushed open the front door and called out to me, "Mommy." Just as our little family of 3 settled into a warm and happy life, my husband returned from his time-traveling trip, and he completely lost his mind. It was the 3rd year of my marriage to Elliot Ching. As a brilliant scientist, he had finally invented a machine capable of traveling through time and space. He told me, "Iris Sue, I want to go back in time. I want to bring Hazel Jiang back to life." Hazel Jiang had been his girlfriend back in college. They'd broken up because Hazel had insisted on going abroad to pursue her career. 6 months after their breakup, Elliot had confessed his feelings to me. Back then, Elliot Ching was a straight-A student, a born genius, perfect in both looks and personality. Having someone like him confess to me felt like winning the lottery. I couldn't possibly turn him down. I said yes, and we started dating. After we graduated from graduate school, we got married, and now 3 years had passed since our wedding day. I didn't know much about Hazel Jiang, only that she'd been just as outstanding as Elliot. She died in a plane crash on her way back to the country. Elliot assured me, "Iris Sue, don't worry. You're my wife now. I just think it's such a shame that Hazel died so young. Once I bring her back, I'll come right back to you." I forced a laugh, one that felt utterly absurd. "Elliot Ching, where exactly do you put me in all of this? Elliot Ching, do you really have no feelings left for Hazel Jiang at all? Are you even trying to fool yourself here?" He fell silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "Iris Sue, let's get a divorce." I let out a cold chuckle. "I thought about it. Something goes wrong if I don't make it back. I think the best thing is for us to get divorced. I'll leave without taking a single thing. Just wait for me for 2 years. If I haven't come back by then, you can marry someone else." "And what makes you think I'd be willing to wait for you?" Elliot looked at me, his face etched with exhaustion, and softened his tone. "Iris Sue, don't be difficult." By the time I got home from work that day, my throat was already sore. I said nothing, just went straight to the bedroom and lay down. That night, I felt like my body was sinking into a void. A high fever left me too weak to speak. In my dazed state, I felt Elliot lift me up in his arms, his voice gentle as he said, "Darling, sit up and take your medicine." After he'd fed me the medicine, I asked him in a hoarse voice, "Promise me. Can you not go?" Under the warm glow of the lamp, Elliot's face looked unusually gentle and handsome. He fell silent. I gave a bitter smile. "Let's go get the divorce tomorrow." The next day I was still feeling dizzy and disoriented. Elliot tried to persuade me, "We don't have to rush the divorce. Why don't we wait until you're feeling better?" "No need." I pulled on my coat. When Elliot reached out to wrap my scarf around me, I dodged his hand without a word. He looked a little dejected as he handed the scarf to me instead. After I'd wrapped it around myself, he drove us to the Civil Affairs Bureau. When we walked out of the building, my vision suddenly blurred, and I almost stumbled. Elliot quickly reached out to steady me. We still had 1 more month to go before we could officially receive our divorce certificate. And then he would step into his time machine and travel back to the past. On the drive home, I asked him, "What if you really do bring Hazel Jiang back to life? What if she tells you she loves you and wants to be with you? Then what happens to us?" He promised me earnestly, "Iris Sue, I'll stay with you. I'll choose you." I couldn't help but find it laughable. Over that next month, Elliot and I lived under the same roof like strangers, barely exchanging a single word. Probably because I was in such a bad mood, my illness dragged on endlessly. When I finally stepped on the scale, I realized I'd lost 10 pounds. We picked up our divorce certificate from the Civil Affairs Bureau. On the day he stepped into the time machine, he looked at me and said, "Iris Sue, wait for me to come back." I spoke up, my voice steady. "Elliot Ching, I won't be waiting for you." He stared at me in stunned disbelief as his figure slowly faded away inside the time machine. In the days that followed, I began to live alone. At first, I couldn't get used to it. The bed suddenly felt too big, the house too empty and quiet. I tucked the divorce certificate under my pillow. It wasn't until a year later, when the certificate slipped out from under the pillow, that I noticed something had changed. The divorce certificate had turned into a marriage certificate. I opened it up and my breath caught in my throat. Staring back at me from the certificate was a photo of me and my sworn enemy, Fyodor Chin. The date on the certificate was March 2015. Back then, I'd still been a university student. In my memories, I'd only been dating Alia Chin for half a year at that point. So why on earth was I married to Fyodor Chin? What's more, even though the decor of the house hadn't changed, many other things were different. A small night light had appeared on the bedside table, one that I could tap on to turn on whenever I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. The old washing machine in the bathroom, the one that had always made weird clanking noises, had been replaced by a brand new fully automatic model. I opened the wardrobe door and froze for a moment. All of Elliot's clothes were gone. In their place hung rows of crisp men's suits. Then I noticed more little details. I'd thrown away Elliot's toothbrush long ago, but now the bathroom counter held 2 toothbrushes again, one yellow, which was mine, and the other blue. Could it possibly be Fyodor Chin's? A pair of men's slippers had also appeared by the front door. Strangely enough, though, the house didn't feel overly masculine. It didn't look like a man had been living here long term. I wanted to find some proof that Theodore and I were in contact. I pulled out my phone and opened WeChat. To my surprise, Fyodor Chin was no longer blocked. His name was right there, plain as day, in my chat list. I clicked on our conversation. The chat history was surprisingly sparse. Our last exchange had been 10 days ago. He'd sent a message saying, "Going on a business trip." I'd replied with a single word, "Okay," and that had been it. No other messages after that. That night, I woke up in the middle of the night to find a man lying next to me. I let out a startled gasp. When I flipped on the light switch, I was met with the sight of Fyodor Chin's face. He was wearing a silk bathrobe, the belt tied loosely around his waist, revealing smooth, well-defined chest muscles. His eyes were still heavy with sleep. I demanded, "What are you doing in my house?" "In my bed." A look of hurt flashed across his face, but his tone remained cold and detached. "Arisu, we're husband and wife. Where else would I be if not in your bed?" I asked him, "Why are we husband and wife? Why did I marry you?" In my memories, Alia Chin is the one I'm married to. The truth was, Fyodor Chin and I hadn't always been sworn enemies. Our falling out had all been because of Alia Chin. My relationship with Elliot had gotten off to a rocky start. He'd never been very affectionate toward me. Fyodor had tried to talk me into breaking up with him several times. We'd gotten into huge fights over it, fights that had ended with me blocking his number, determined never to speak to him again. Over the years, I'd had my moments of regret, but I'd never been able to swallow my pride and reach out to him first. And it seemed Fyodor had felt the same way. He hadn't contacted me once in all these years. As I finished explaining all this, I noticed that Theodore's expression had darkened considerably. "Arisu," he said, his voice tight, "we've been married for so many years now, and you still can't forget Elliot Ching? What's so great about that man, anyway?" I quickly reassured him, No, Elliot Ching is nothing but garbage. Who in their right mind would still be hung up on him?" He looked at me in stunned surprise. "You really don't remember him anymore?" "Really?" He pressed. "Can you say it again?" I asked. "Say what again?" "The part where you said Elliot Ching is garbage." A faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips. He looked thoroughly satisfied. I asked him, "So why exactly did we get married?" He shot back, "Don't you remember yourself?" If I did, I wouldn't be asking. The fact that Fyodor Chin and I were lying in the same bed felt so awkward. I couldn't shake the worry that he might try something. Thankfully, he sat like a log, perfectly well behaved. When I took a shower the next morning, I noticed a slit and scar on my stomach. By the time I stepped out of the bathroom, breakfast was already laid out on the table. It was my favorite preserved egg and lean pork porridge paired with steamed buns, and there was even a plate of pastries on the side. Fyodor Chin had changed into one of the black suits hanging in the wardrobe. He looked distinctly uncomfortable, his tone cold and distant as he said, "I went for a morning jog. Passed by a breakfast shop on the way back, so I picked up some extra stuff." I gave him a skeptical look. "The steamed bun shop is in the south of the city, and Sue's Pastries is in the north. That's quite a detour for a passing bike." I scanned him up and down. In all my memories, I'd never seen Theodore in a suit before. Tall and lean with a perfect figure, he looked surprisingly good in it. I asked, Why are you dressed like this? I have to go to work. What position do you hold now? I asked. Then I lifted my shirt to show him my stomach. Theodore looked taken aback, his face flushing bright red in an instant. I stared at him in confusion. If we'd been married for all these years, we should have seen each other's bodies 100 times over. Why was he acting so embarrassingly innocent? I asked. How did I get this scar on my stomach? He looked at me, his voice softening. Iris Sue, you really don't remember? I decided to come clean. To tell you the truth, in my memories, I'm married to Elliot Ching. His hand froze midair, chopsticks still hovering over a steamed bun. Iris Sue, he said through gritted teeth. I don't want to hear his name. After all these years, you still can't forget him? No, you have to listen to me. He crossed his arms over his chest, looking like he was daring me to spin the most ridiculous tale imaginable. I told him I really was married to Elliot Ching. His expression darkened instantly. My name is not Elliot Ching. He stood up, ready to walk out, but I reached out and grabbed his arm to stop him. It was our 3rd year of marriage. Elliot invented a time machine. He said he was going back in time to bring Hazel John back to life. Before he left, we got a divorce. Then I lived alone for a whole year. I have no idea why the divorce certificate under my pillow turned into a marriage certificate with your name on it. I don't know why you're here in this house. And I certainly don't know why we got married. So, what's the story behind this scar on my stomach? He stared at me in shock, but quickly composed himself. It's a cesarean section scar. We have a child. I asked, but there's not a single trace of a kid living in this house. How old is he? 6 years old. He's staying with my parents. We're both swamped with work. It's not easy to take care of him while we're busy, so he lives with them. I asked, is it a boy or a girl? Can I meet him this afternoon? I traced the scar on my stomach, completely unable to picture myself giving birth to a child. When I had been married to Elliot Ching, it wasn't that I hadn't wanted kids, but he'd insisted on being child-free, so I'd had no choice but to agree. We'd never had a child in those 3 years of marriage. Theodore told me, it's a boy. He's in primary school now. I'll pick him up after school and bring him home. Okay. That afternoon I laid eyes on the cutest little boy. He stood at the doorway, staring at me shyly before finally calling out softly, Mommy. A warm, tender feeling surged in my heart. I could never have imagined that I'd given birth to such an adorable child. When it was time for bed that night, Theodore Ching was in his silk bathrobe again, the belt tied loosely around his waist, casually revealing his well-defined chest muscles. I sighed. I think I'll sleep in the guest room next door. Theodore looked instantly wronged. Iris Sue were husband and wife. I fell silent for a moment, but I have no memories of us living together. I can't just adjust to this overnight. He quickly reassured me. I won't do anything, I promise. If you don't trust me, you're questioning my character. Before I could reply, we heard a soft voice at the door. The little boy was standing there, clutching his pillow. Daddy. Then he turned to me, his voice hesitant. Mommy, baby is scared to sleep alone. Baby wants to sleep with Mommy and Daddy. My heart melted instantly. Glancing over at Theodore, I noticed he looked like he had something to say but was holding back. The little boy was wearing a soft beige pajama set, standing by the edge of the bed. He asked me, Mommy, can baby sleep in the middle? Baby wants to snuggle up to Mommy. Of course you can. Theodore ground his teeth together, looking like he was about to lose his patience. Jasper Ching, you've been sleeping in your own bed since you were 3. My heart ached even more for the little guy. Poor baby. Come here, Mommy's got you. Jasper Ching kicked off his slippers, placing them neatly next to ours. Then he climbed into bed, lying prim and proper between Theodore and me. I'd always struggled with insomnia, but that night I slept like a baby, completely dreamless. When I woke up the next morning, I found Jasper curled up in my arms. He blinked his big dewy eyes at me and chirped, Good morning, Mommy. Then he leaned in and planted a soft kiss on my cheek. It was the sweetest, most gentle touch imaginable. Theodore picked Jasper up and set him on the floor. Jasper Ching dropped the act. You're going to be late for school. Daddy will get you dressed and take you now. Jasper looked up at him, his expression earnest. Daddy, what are you talking about? Baby really loves Mommy. Then he turned to me again. Mommy, even though Grandma and Grandpa are nice to me, Baby still wants to be with mommy the most. Will Daddy pick baby up from school again today? Yes. It felt surreal. After breakfast, Theodore drove the car with Jasper and me sitting in the back seat as we headed to drop him off at school. I asked Theodore, "What's the little guy's favorite food?" Theodore listed them off without hesitation, surprising me with how well he knew his son's preferences. Then he added, "Though to be honest, he loves all kinds of junk food." I asked another question. Does he only wear his school uniform? I haven't seen any other clothes for him. Theodore replied, "Yeah, he wears the uniform most days. His other clothes are all at my parents' house." "Then let's go buy him some new clothes after school." Theodore looked like he wanted to object, but finally just said, "He has a name, you know. It's Jasper Chin." Jasper snuggled deeper into my arms, looking completely innocent. But baby is mommy's good little boy. At the school gate, Jasper hugged me tightly and gave me another kiss before reluctantly heading into the building. I'd never been someone swept up in consumerism. My wardrobe was minimalist and I only bought new clothes twice a year. But the moment Theodore, Jasper, and I walked into the mall, I was overcome with the urge to dress up my little doll. Jasper looked exactly like Theodore with deep, sharp eyes, but his lips were just like mine, naturally upturned at the corners, softening his otherwise intense features. Even in his plain school uniform, his good looks were impossible to miss. The sales assistant certainly knew how to butter us up. "Your son looks absolutely adorable in this outfit. Such a little English prince. This one's perfect too. Classic Chinese Academy style." Theodore tried to rein me in from the side. Okay, that's enough. He's growing like a weed. These clothes won't fit him for long." But I was on a roll, buying a dozen outfits in total. Theodore ended up carrying all the shopping bags as we walked out of the mall. Theodore cooked dinner that night. To be honest, it was perfect, exactly my taste. Jasper clearly loved it too, piling his rice bowl high and scraping it clean until not a single grain was left. For the first time in a long while, I felt a warm, fuzzy sense of belonging wash over me. This was what home was supposed to feel like. Back when I was married to Elliot Ching, he'd almost always eaten at the lab. When he did come home, he'd immediately hole up in his study, buried in his research. We'd barely had any chance to eat together. And on the rare occasions we did, I was usually the one cooking. My skills were mediocre at best. I could barely manage to cook food until it was edible. After dinner, Jasper quietly went off to do his homework, while Theodore kept working on company matters. I had nothing to do, so I picked up my tablet and started watching a drama. When I looked up a little while later, there was a plate of freshly cut fruit and a glass of honey water sitting beside me. Theodore had prepared them for me. Thanked him. Thanks. A flicker of disappointment crossed his face. "Iris, we're husband and wife. I should be doing this for you. You don't need to thank me." "Okay." I took a bite of watermelon. It was sweet. Then I popped a blueberry into my mouth. That was sweet too. Theodore was far more attentive than Elliot had ever been. He noticed the little things I liked to eat. In the past, I'd been the one bringing Elliot fruit. He'd always looked at me with a resigned expression and said, "Iris Sue, you're distracting me again." Once Jasper finished his homework, Theodore carried him to the bathroom to brush his teeth and wash his face. Then he went to take a shower himself. As he walked out of the bathroom, he accidentally let his bathrobe fall open just enough to show off his chest muscles. His wet hair was pushed back from his forehead, droplets of water still dripping down, highlighting his sharp, intense features. And then I smelled it, a faint, suspicious scent of peach milk. He looked embarrassed. "I used your body wash. Mine ran out." When I went to take a shower, the bathroom was spotless. Even the hair in the drain had been cleaned up and thrown away. On a whim, I glanced at Theodore's men's body wash. It was still completely full, so he'd done it on purpose. After my shower, Theodore naturally picked up the hairdryer, clearly intending to dry my hair for me. I declined. "I can do it myself." As I dried my hair, I watched Theodore dry Jasper's hair. His long, slender fingers moved gently through Jasper's soft hair. Jasper's little cheeks were flushed pink, absolutely adorable. Finally, Theodore slathered baby lotion all over Jasper's body, gave his little bottom a playful pat, and said, "Get dressed by yourself." Jasper put on a cream-colored pajama set. Theodore was wearing the same one. Jasper's eyes then fell on the new set of pajamas lying on the sofa. "Mommy, Don't you want to wear matching pajamas with baby? I couldn't help but give in. The three of us ended up wearing matching parent-child pajamas with Jasper lying in the middle. Good night, Mommy. Good night, baby. Theodore added, don't forget me. I said, good night to you too. When I woke up the next morning, I found myself in Theodore's arms. Jasper had rolled over to lie in the middle of the bed. Theodore's bathrobe seemed to have a mind of its own. Somehow the top buttons had come undone. I scrambled out of his arms in a panic, accidentally brushing my hand against his chest. Theodore let out a low groan. I asked him, are you okay? I'm fine. Jasper opened his eyes, looking confused. Daddy's not fine, Daddy's in pain. Mommy should blow on it for him. Blowing makes the pain go away. Under Jasper's watchful gaze, I reluctantly leaned over and blew gently on his chest. Then I shot Theodore a warning look. Well, does it still hurt? Theodore stared straight at me. No, it doesn't. I worked late that evening. By the time I got home, Theodore had already picked up Jasper. Along with the cooked dinner on the table, there was a small red velvet box sitting there quietly. He was surprised. What's this? I asked Theodore. He looked a little stiff. Open it and see. Inside was a beautiful gold necklace. Theodore said, it's for you. Jasper chimed in from the side. Daddy, put it on Mommy. Logically, I should have refused. But in that moment, surrounded by such a warm, intimate atmosphere, I couldn't find a reason to say no. Theodore unclasped the necklace. As he put it around my neck, his fingers accidentally brushed against the back of my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. Earlier, when Theodore, Jasper, and I had come back from grocery shopping, Theodore and I had been holding hands. I hadn't wanted to at first, but Jasper had insisted that all the other mommies and daddies hold hands. When we reached the front door, I suddenly pulled my hand away, feeling like I'd been caught cheating. It was absurd. After all, I was the one legally married to Theodore Chin. Elliot's gaze fixed on our hands, the hands that had just been intertwined. Then he looked at me, his voice filled with pain and restraint. Iris, I'm back. I never imagined that going back in time would change the course of things like this. You were supposed to be my wife. Iris, you love me, don't you? Jasper looked confused. Daddy, what is this uncle talking about? Theodore picked Jasper up in his arms. Sir, I suggest you stop spouting nonsense. Iris Sue is my legal wife, and we have a lovely child together. Elliot's tone became urgent. That's a lie. Iris Sue is my wife. I reminded him calmly, Elliot Chin, we got divorced before you left. Then I smiled faintly. I assume you managed to bring Hazel John back to life. Congratulations. You've finally let go of that obsession you've been clinging to all these years. Iris Sue, I love you. As I reached for the door handle, I turned to look at Elliot. I'm sorry, but I'd appreciate it if you'd respect the fact that I'm a married woman now. My husband is Theodore Chin. Theodore puffed out his chest like a proud rooster, carrying Jasper as he followed me into the house. Elliot was left standing outside, the door slamming shut in his face. I looked around the house. It had changed so much in the past 6 months. The floor was covered with a new cream-colored carpet. All the table and chair corners were padded to prevent little ones from bumping into them. There were even toys Jasper had left on the sofa the night before. On the dining table, a bouquet of fresh flowers bloomed brightly. Theodore had bought them. He loved adding these little touches of romance to our daily lives. Once we were inside, Theodore set Jasper down. His confidence seemed to deflate instantly. He asked me, "Tell that Elliot's back. Are you going to get back together with him?" After all, he's the one you've always loved. I cut him off. No. The moment he decided to leave, I knew I'd never take him back. The next morning, when we opened the front door, Elliot was sitting on the steps outside. His eyes were bloodshot, heavy with exhaustion. The second he saw me, he jumped up, his voice desperate. Iris, I've been waiting for you all night. Can I come in and rest for a bit? I called you so many times. Why didn't you answer? His gaze flickered to Theodore. His voice was hoarse. Did you sleep together? Jasper tried to reason with him. Uncle, it's rude to sit outside someone else's house all night. Should my daddy sleep with you instead of my mommy? Elliot's breathing became ragged. He reached out, trying to grab my hand, his face contorted in pain. Iris, I won't allow this. This was our house, our love nest. If you have nothing important to say, please move out of the way. I need to take my son to school. And besides, if Theodore and I didn't sleep together, how do you think our son was born? Elliot's voice cracked. It was all an accident. A mistake. I looked at Theodore in surprise. I'd asked him about our past before, but he'd always been vague. Seemed Elliot knew the whole story. I thought he was going to explain further, but he suddenly fell silent. Elliot begged me, Iris Sue, divorce him. Come back to me. Then, as if making a huge sacrifice, he added, if you like this child, I'll treat him as my own. Theodore's voice turned cold. I didn't realize you were such a homewrecker, Dr. Cheng. My son already has a father. We're a happy family, we don't need your meddling. He put his arm around my shoulders, took Jasper's hand, and walked past Elliot without a second glance. Jasper couldn't resist adding, Uncle, I don't want an ugly daddy like you. I was distracted for most of the morning at work. I pulled out my laptop and searched for Hazel Jiang. Sure enough, the search results showed that Elliot had succeeded in bringing her back to life. She was still living abroad and had won a series of prestigious awards. I was genuinely happy that such a talented woman had been given a second chance to shine. But I couldn't forgive Elliot for his infidelity, for the way he'd strung me along all these years. Theodore Ching texted me, saying his parents missed Jasper and he was going to take the boy back to their place that afternoon. I replied, I'll come with you. I just happen to want to pay my respects to your parents. Okay. That afternoon I bought some gifts. Theodore picked up Jasper first, then swung by the mall to pick me up. The three of us arrived at the Ching family's house together. I felt a flutter of nervousness before we went in. I'd met Theodore's parents before, but it had been years since then. And judging by the way our marriage had been going before, I had no idea what kind of reception to expect from them. The moment the door opened, Jasper darted inside first, throwing himself into the arms of an elderly woman. He looked up at her with a big smile. Grandma, baby came to see you. I held up the gifts in my hands. Hello, Auntie. I'm Iris Sue. At the sound of my address, a flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes, but she still stepped aside to let me in. Come in, come in. I'll cook, we'll have dinner at home later. She wore an ingratiating smile on her face. The Ching family's house wasn't big, but it was clean and tidy. I sat awkwardly on the sofa. Theodore rolled up his sleeves and went to the kitchen to help. Jasper, on the other hand, played with his ball like he owned the place. The ball rolled away, bouncing into a room and disappearing under the bed. He called out to me, Mommy, help. Help me get my ball out. I asked him, shouldn't we ask for permission before going into someone else's room? Jasper tilted his head to the side. But that's Daddy's room. I grabbed a broom and swept the ball out from under the bed. As I straightened up, I accidentally knocked over a notebook on the shelf. A photo slipped out of the notebook. It was a picture of Theodore and me. I remembered it was originally a group photo of 5 people. The others had all been cut out, leaving only the 2 of us. Why had Theodore kept a photo like this? I reached down to pick up the notebook and caught a glimpse of what was written inside. June 17, 2011. I like Iris Sue so much. I want to confess to her. I want her to be my girlfriend. But I'm too scared. What if I confess and we can't even be friends anymore? I froze. So Theodore had a crush on me all along. My sense of propriety told me to stop reading, but my curiosity begged me to keep going. What Theodore didn't know was that during the summer vacation after the college entrance exam, I'd liked him too. I'd just been too afraid to confess, but after we went to different universities we lost touch. Gradually I'd fallen for Elliot Ching instead. I flipped to the next page, landing on an entry from 2015. March 27, 2015. That jerk Elliot Ching suddenly said he was going back to find his ex-girlfriend. Iris asked me out for a drink. Watching her look so heartbroken, I felt like my own heart was breaking into pieces. I took her to a hotel. She kept calling Elliot's name, clinging to my hand and refusing to let me leave. He kissed me, took the initiative to kiss me. I made a mistake, but I don't regret it. May 15, 2015. Iris is pregnant. The baby is mine. I forced her to marry me. She's mine now, even if she never loves me. Why won't she love me? As long as I stay by her side, she'll learn to love me eventually. Even if she never does, so what? I'm the one who'll be with her for the rest of her life. Before I could flip to the next page, I looked up and saw Theodore standing at the door. He stared at the diary in my hand, his face completely flustered. I looked at him, a smile spreading across my face. Then I leaned in and kissed him right on the lips. This man, who had always been as calm as a mountain even when disaster struck, froze. His eyes widened in shock, and he didn't dare to move an inch. Jasper, on the other hand, covered his eyes with his hands. "See no evil. See no evil." I pulled back slightly, teasing him. "What? Can't even kiss someone properly?" He wrapped his arms around my waist, deepening the kiss. As he lifted me up, his body accidentally knocked into the bookshelf behind him. The shelf toppled over with a crash, sending books and trinkets scattering across the floor. By the time Mrs. Chin rushed over at the sound of the noise, Theodore was still kissing me. Her eyes went wide with shock. She quickly picked up Jasper and carried him out of the room, closing the door behind her. When Theodore and I finally pulled apart, I looked into his eyes and said, "Theodore Chin, I love you." His gaze burned with intensity. "You're not lying to me, are you?" "If this is a dream," he whispered, "I hope I never wake up." He laced his fingers through mine. I told him it was a twist of fate that made us husband and wife. But maybe this was exactly what fate had in store for us all along. "And what if I told you that I liked you too back in high school?" Theodore's face lit up with surprise and joy, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I planned to confess to you in college. We were supposed to go to the same university, but my exam score was lower than yours and I messed up my college application. I ended up getting placed somewhere else. I just thought I wasn't good enough for you, and now we've wasted so many years." Theodore and I started picking up the books and items scattered on the floor. Our hands brushed against each other's, and he laced his fingers through mine, so we ended up cleaning the mess together, hand in hand. Once everything was tidied up, Theodore looked at me, his eyes full of anxiety. "Arisu, now that Elliot's back, I'm so scared. Scared that if he plays the victim, you'll soften your heart. Scared that you'll choose him over me." I reached up to cup his face, reassuring him. "No, Theodore. Right now, the person I love is you, and I'll keep loving you for the rest of our lives." I explained to him, before Elliot invented the time machine and traveled back, we were already divorced. I have nothing to do with him anymore. I thought about it for a moment. Elliot was such a proud man, surely he wouldn't keep pestering me. That evening we all had dinner together. Mrs. Chin kept piling food onto my plate. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I said, "Mom, please don't put any more food on my plate." AI. She lowered her head, and I saw tears quietly falling onto the tablecloth before she quickly wiped them away. "Seeing you two so happy together, it puts my mind at ease." After dinner, Theodore and I stayed the night at the Chin family's house. Jasper slept with his grandma. The bedroom Theodore had grown up in only had a single bed. I complained to him, "Stop squeezing me, will you? You're so warm." He looked helpless. "Sorry, I didn't mean to. The bed's too small here. Maybe we should go back home." "I'll go get the car." "No need." "Then I'll sleep on the sofa." "No need for that either." I pretended to be annoyed. "Theodore Chin, do I have to spell everything out for you?" He looked flustered again. "But my mom and Jasper are right next door." "I'll be quiet." Then with a loud thud we both fell off the bed. Theodore quickly shielded my head with his hands. Just then we heard a knock on the door. Mrs. Chin called out, "Everything okay in there?" Theodore sighed, looking completely defeated. "We're fine." I ran into Elliot Chin while I was eating lunch. He stopped me in my tracks. "Arisu, I really am sorry. Can't you please give our relationship another chance?" Then his gaze fell on my neck. "What happened to you, Nick?" "Oh, nothing, just Theodore Chin marking his territory like a possessive puppy." I pulled my silk scarf tighter, covering the spot completely. "It's none of your business." "Do I need to remind you that my husband is Theodore Chin now? We're very happy together. Please don't cross the line, Dr. Chin." Elliot looked absolutely shattered. He asked me if I hadn't gone back to bring Hazel John back to life. Would we still be together now? I sighed. Maybe. Who can say what might have been? I've moved on with my life. I hope you can too. Your career as a scientist still has a long way to go. There are still so many scientific peaks left for you to conquer. Elliot said, "What's the point of conquering any peaks if you're not by my side to share them with me?" I tried to comfort him. "You'll meet someone you love again in the future. Elliot stumbled away, looking completely lost. On his way back, I received a text message from him. He asked me, "Iris Sue, if I go back in time again, if I stop you from ever meeting Theodore Chin, will you be my wife again? Will we be the loving couple we were meant to be?" I warned him, "Elliot Chin, what's done is done. There's no need for you to take such a risk. I hope you won't destroy the simple happiness I found." He was bordering on obsession now. "No, the only happiness that matters is having you by my side. Us together." Anxiousness settled in my chest. I was terrified that if Elliot went back in time again, our lives would be thrown off course once more. Theodore and I would never get married, and our son, our sweet, adorable Jasper, would never be born. Days turned into weeks, and Theodore was still by my side. Jasper was now in the 2nd grade of primary school. One day I found an old notebook lying around the house. The handwriting on the pages was familiar. It was Elliot's. "Arsu, I bought this house in advance long before we even met. That way when I write in this notebook you'll be able to read it someday. I don't know what went wrong, but I traveled back to the wrong time, half a year earlier than when we first got together. I miss you so much, but right now you don't even like me yet. Don't worry though. In half a year I'll confess my feelings to you and we'll be together." I found, staring at the notebook which already looked slightly worn with age. That night I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. I looked over at Theodore lying beside me. I grabbed him and kissed him hard. Then I asked him, "Elliot's gone back in time again. He says he's going to stop us from ever meeting. What would you do if I weren't your wife?" He paused for a moment before answering, his voice steady and sure. "Anyone else would just be settling." As the days passed, I grew more and more anxious. Every morning before I left for work, I kissed Theodore goodbye, then picked up our son and hugged him tightly. Jasper patted my back, trying to comfort me. "See you this afternoon, Mommy. Don't worry, I won't disappear today." Theodore pulled me into his arms, his voice warm and reassuring. "Don't worry, I won't let that happen." The notebook had a new entry. "Arisu, tomorrow is the day I'm going to confess to you. We'll be together soon. This time I'm never letting you go." Theodore hadn't come home for 3 days. When I asked Jasper about it, he just gave me a mysterious look and said, "Mommy, Daddy says he's gone to defend our love." I was even more worried now. That night, as I held Jasper close in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Thankfully, when morning came, Jasper was still there, safe and sound. A full week passed before Theodore finally came home. I threw myself into his arms, then slapped him lightly on the chest. "Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? Don't you ever do something so dangerous again." Theodore held me tightly, pressing a kiss to my forehead. But every second of it was worth it. Suddenly, new memories flooded my mind, memories that hadn't been there before. The first memory was of the summer after the college entrance exam. Theodore had suddenly confessed his feelings to me. I'd said yes. This time, he'd chosen a different major on his college application. He hadn't messed up his placement. We'd gone to the same university. The second memory was of the day Elliot had tried to confess to me. Theodore had stepped out from behind me, his arm wrapped around my waist. "I'm sorry, but she already has a boyfriend." Elliot's face had turned to shock, then confusion, then utter helplessness. The third memory was of Theodore and me whispering to each other in bed. Was it today? Is this the day we conceived Jasper? Theodore had frowned, pretending to think hard. It must have been around this time. Maybe we should try a few more times just to be sure. I'd suspected he was just making excuses to get me into bed. The notebook had a new entry, its last one. "Arsu, I never imagined I'd fail. I never imagined we wouldn't end up together. You're still with Theodore Chin. I can't go back. Something went wrong with the time machine. I'm stuck in this timeline forever." I picked up a pen and wrote 2 words in the notebook. "Take care." Then Theodore took the pen from my hand and added his own message below mine. "Thank you for inventing the time machine. It gave me the chance to be with my wife 4 years earlier than I ever could have." It was as if Elliot had seen those words. I noticed a dark, damp spot on the page, stained, it seemed, by human tears. And then, one by one, all the words in the notebook faded away, until the pages were blank again. One day, I woke up and turned to Theodore, a confused look on my face. "I feel like I used to love someone else, but I can't remember who." Theodore pulled me into his arms, his grip firm and possessive. "No, you didn't. You're only allowed to love me for the rest of your life.